the 6 million population of the Tigray region, 5.2 of them are facing a man-made famine. This is all because the dictator in Ethiopia wants to stay in power illegally and unconstitutionally. We, as a global citizens, have the power to come together and stop the suffering of the innocent people. We are here calling on the U.S. government to impose targeted economic sanctions on Ethiopia and Eritrea, to impose arms embargo so that these genocidal forces do not continue to buy armaments and kill innocent people. You can join our social media movement by using the hashtag Tigray Genocide on Twitter. You can also join our grassroots movement and lobbying efforts by talking to your senators and Congress people and pushing them to impose sanctions on Ethiopia and Eritrea. Sanction Ethiopia!
Sanction Ethiopia!
Sanction Ethiopia!
Sanction Ethiopia!
Sanction Ethiopia!
Sanction Ethiopia!
Isaias to the ICC!
Isaias to the ICC!
Isaias to the ICC!
Isaias to the ICC!
Drop food, not bombs!
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 If I can't hear you, they can't hear you. Who are we? Who are we? Who are we? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want it? What do we want it? What do we want it? Who are we? Who are we? Who are we? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want it? 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 Stop the Tigray genocide! 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 This is a peaceful protest against the ongoing state-sponsored genocide in Tigray, Ethiopia. For the past 9 months, the government of Ethiopia colluded with the government of Eritrea to bomb, rape, murder, massacre, and annihilate the Tigray people. Of the 6 million innocent civilians in Tigray, over 90% of the population is in need of emergency humanitarian aid. There's no food, no water, no gas, no electricity. The people are being annihilated in complete darkness. We've been fighting for 9 months on the street, but we can't do it alone. We need our allies and our outside communities to speak up on our behalf. We united together in the 80s when our people were starving, and we need to do it together again. The people have no food, no water, no aid. They've completely blocked access to the region, and the government of Ethiopia and Eritrea have weaponized hunger and rape as a means to further their own political agenda. We need to unite together and use our voice to bring an end to this. We've done it for the last 9 months, and we can't let up. Who are we? Who are we? Who are we? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want it?
I want justice!
I want justice!
I want peace!
I want peace!
We demand justice!
We demand justice!
We demand peace!
We demand peace!
Weaponized hunger is a crime!
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 Stop the war on Tigray!
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 Ethiopia is guilty of genocide!
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 Ethiopia is guilty of genocide. Listen to this, day 638. Day 638. 638 days of genocide in Tigray. Now, what you could do right now is go ahead and share this. Because someone doesn't know that a genocide is taking place in Tigray. And some of you will say, well, where's Tigray? I would say north of Ethiopia, south of Eritrea, east of the Sudan, and in the hearts of the Tigray people. throughout the diaspora. And throughout the diaspora, the Tigray diaspora force has been spreading this word and sharing and protesting and bringing attention to the fact that for 638 days, their loved ones, their families, their countrymen, women, and children have not had access to medical attention and care, lack of communication. A foreign government, Eritrea, is inside of a sovereign nation, Ethiopia, and waging war, not only in Tigray, but throughout Ethiopia. And the signature of this genocide is systemic rape. And it's all being led by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. And while the world's attention is focused in Ukraine, the very human rights abuses that have warranted a strong military response has largely ignored the people of Tigray. Stop the genocide in Tigray. It is day 638. I just wanted to stop by for just a quick moment. Somebody go ahead and share this, because we've been covering this from day one, and we'll continue to be a voice for the voiceless. I've been getting a lot of questions on a lot of different subjects as it relates to Ethiopia. And a lot of what I'm hearing is rooted in sheer nonsense. Like, for example, individuals are asking me, based on this particular magazine, were cheetahs, bees, and lions, etc., deployed to defeat the Italians in the Battle of Adwa? And they're calling it the first Italo-Ethiopian War. That should give you an indication right there that whatever this magazine is, it's nonsense. Because the Battle of Adwa was not the first Italian-Ethiopian War. Someone should go and just do a brief history lesson, and you will see when Alula and the Tigray whooped the Italians so much that they've got a plaza called the Plaza of 500. Those are the Italians that lost their lives attempting to fight in Tigray. Day 638. Another big question that's going around, and it's a fair question. It's a fair question. So I'm going to ask it. Has anybody seen Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed? It's a fair question. It's a fair question. Has anyone seen Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed recently? That's the question on the floor. Has anyone seen Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed? And I know what some of you are saying if you're in the diaspora and you are just tuning in and you're just getting into this information. You're saying, Brother Jeff, who is Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed? Well, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is a leader inside of Ethiopia who had an incredible opportunity to help forge a fledgling democracy and continue the vast economic growth under a constitution who decided to be a basic Shifta leader. Okay, great. I understand. Okay, it looks like Rada Muhammad is saying that Abiy Ahmed is back. Okay, great. Where is Abiy Ahmed returning from? And again, Abiy Ahmed is the prime minister of Ethiopia, and some of the most loyal or strident Ethiopians used to be individuals who now firmly hold on to their ethnic identity, and they are Tigray. If you notice the opening of this program, they're saying, "Who are we?" They didn't say Ethiopian. Who are we? They're saying Tigray. Now, I'm sure that there are some, they're few and far between, you'd have to find them. They may not want to separate from Ethiopia, but I'm sure when the resolution takes place, Tigray is going to be independent. However, what Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has done, and he didn't intend this, but he has united the Tigray community, not only in Ethiopia, but throughout the world. He has done the best job of uniting the Tigray community throughout the diaspora. So much so that there were individuals in the diaspora, if you ask them, they would just say, "I'm Ethiopian." Now you can't find one to say that. And then the education begins. What do you mean? Where's Tigray? What is Tigray? Aren't you Ethiopian? And now that's what will cause a lot of friction. Let me give you a example that many of you may not have heard about. Or you may have heard about it, but you haven't heard it from this perspective. Did you see, I believe there was a relay, there was another individual race, and it was in the World Championships, and I know what you're saying. The Ethiopian women broke the record. I know what you're saying. All around the world, and then you've got even Ethiopians. They're wrapped up in a particular Ethiopian flag. It's not the official Ethiopian flag, because the official Ethiopian flag has an emblem in the center, but you have a lot of individuals that are running around and they've got a red, yellow, and green flag, and they're wrapped around it, and they're cheering, and they're saying, "Hooray, hooray, Ethiopia has just broken world records on the world stage via the track and field competitions." And they're going, "Hooray, hooray, hooray." Let me tell you the part that they're not telling you. Let me tell you the part that they're not telling you. Those women who broke the world record are Tigray. See, this is what I want the Tigray community to make sure you do in your household, for your children, for your community, for the world. Put those images up and let them quit claiming them as Ethiopian and claim them for who they are, Tigray. See, they want the success of the Tigray community, but they don't want to respect the Tigray. Like I told you, they want to talk about the Battle of Adwa, but they don't want to tell you that that's in Tigray. They want to talk about the Ark of the Covenant, but they don't want to tell you that the Ark of the Covenant is in Tigray. They want to tell you about the central kingdom of Aksum and the steles and all of the magnificent attachments to that, but they don't want to tell you that that's in Tigray. They want to tell you about the Queen of Sheba and the relationship that Sheba had with Solomon out of Israel, but they don't want to tell you that that palace is in Tigray. So the latest thing is, right now, they want to tell you that Ethiopia broke the world record, but they don't want to tell you that those women are from, and they are Tigray. Stop the genocide in Tigray. I want to get into what's going on for 638 days. And I want to get kind of caught up to date because we've been following this. Do you know that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed? I don't know. Some are saying he's dead. I don't know. Some are saying that he's away because his back hurts. They're saying, well, we haven't seen Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed because his back hurts. Well, it's maybe he's back now. I don't know. Has anybody seen Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed? Like, has he done a press conference? Has he come out? Has he come out and made a public address? What did he say? Like, if Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in the past couple of days or today or the day before yesterday has come out, what did he say? What is the Prime Minister of Ethiopia talking to, and who and about? What is he talking to and about? Somebody share this. This is some critical information, because I'm going to share a few historical notes that I have in the past to bring some individuals up to the current. Ethiopia is unraveling as we speak. And if you don't believe me, go ask any of your Oromo friends. Ask your Oromo friends in the diaspora, or call them up in Ethiopia. See, you can't call up your friends and family in Tigray right now. There's a blockade. The communication is blocked out for 638 days, and the Prime Minister is attempting to hide a genocide. In other words, he's doing the impossible. He's attempting to hide a genocide. And you can't hide a genocide. I've come to some conclusions, and I'm going to tell you some of the conclusions that I've come to. And I'm not saying that I'm correct. I'm just saying that's where I am on this 638th day. This genocide is sanctioned. This genocide is sanctioned by the world powers. Yes, America. Yes, Europe. Whatever Western power has interests in the Horn of Africa, you cannot tell me they don't know a genocide is taking place. They don't know that a population is isolated based on their ethnicity. You can't tell me that they don't know that. You can't tell me that they don't know that starvation is taking place. And if they know starvation is taking place, if they know systemic rape is taking place, if they know widespread displacement is taking place, then that's going to tell you that they are complicit in their silence, even as they tell you, we want to do a study. We want to have a hearing. We want to write a report. The reason that approach sounded reasonable 638 days ago is because there's a very different response in Ukraine based on the very same circumstances. By the way, we're looking for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who will perhaps be making his way and hopefully to the International Criminal Court on a variety of charges. And for those of you who are cheering about Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, tell me why you're cheering that a foreign nation, Eritrea, is inside of your country attacking your citizens. Tell me why Eritrea is inside of Ethiopia. There's so much that I want to share. However, my conclusion is this 638-day genocide is sanctioned by the Western powers or the powers that be, or the powers that be. Afwerki says they keep posting old videos of Abiy Ahmed in his office. Can you imagine waking up in the United States of America, where I am right now on this side of the pond, and not knowing where President Biden is? Like, no press briefing. It's just everybody goes on their own merry way, and no one's really concerned about where your president is. Like, is your president so irrelevant that he can disappear and nobody cares? You're just like, oh, well, you know, anybody see the president? Nah. Where's Biden? What's he do? Who's doing the people's business? I don't know. I don't know. And for Ethiopia to be in the 21st century, and for individuals to not be able to tell you where their prime minister is, doesn't that give you room for pause? Like, don't you want to ask the question? Like, you do know for several years, I don't know, how long was Emperor Haile Selassie buried under that toilet where nobody could find him? That's a trivia question. How long was Haile Selassie buried beneath the toilet? Oh, you didn't know that Haile Selassie, Emperor Haile Selassie, you didn't know he was smothered with a wet pillow and buried under a toilet? Go look it up. You didn't know the King of Kings was smothered with a wet pillow and buried under a toilet? Then if you didn't know that, you probably didn't know that he was complicit in the death of Zalditu. Did you know that Ethiopia had a woman emperor? What happened to her? See, I'm wondering, we are not asking the critical questions. We're just waking up and we're saying, Abiy Ahmed, we don't know where he's at. No official business. Brother Jeff goes to the Prime Minister website. He goes to the ambassador's website and got press conferences on there from June. Like June, July, August. 638 days of genocide, and you're seeing the collapse, the unraveling of what you know of as Ethiopia. And I'm going to tell you why. Ethiopia is not necessarily a failed state. And let me tell you why. Because Ethiopia is a potential state that never came into fruition. There was an opportunity. That opportunity was under Meles Zenawi, where you were reading those reports, and Ethiopia was having the fastest growing economy. Might have been the largest economy next to Nigeria, but whatever. There were grand reports of the growth of Ethiopia. There was even the construction of a Renaissance dam. That dam, where the people of Ethiopia were going to benefit from their own resources, which was a number one no-no for Western powers, because African nations cannot benefit from their own resources. They have to export their resources for the development of colonial powers. Afwerk says 17 years. Nobody knew where Emperor Haile Selassie, the King of Kings, was for 17 years. And I'm going to let you know where he was. He was buried under a toilet in his palace. See, this is what we're dealing with. We were moving away from that and had a constitution. But there's a tradition of shift of leadership that makes up fables and myths about who Ethiopia is and what Ethiopia is. Let me tell you what Ethiopia is, for those of you who don't know. Ethiopia is a colonial power backed by European powers. It's an extension of the scramble for Africa. And if you don't believe me, ask anyone, where is Oromia? Oromia. Where's Oromia? Now, for those of you in the diaspora who are talking to me about Ethiopia, I'm going to ask you, where is Oromia? Tell me about Finfini. And I'm going to fast forward and tell you when the birth of Ethiopia came into existence. Ethiopia as a nation is a creation of Western powers that came about in the 20th century. It is when the Western powers allowed Haile Selassie to come in and amongst them via the League of Nations. And they made Ethiopia a power along with them, because primarily the Battle of Adwa. There was nothing in the European psyche that said that Africans could defeat Europeans, and if they did, that undermined the notion of white supremacy. And then that's why they started saying Ethiopians, i.e., those with Haile Selassie, was not black, was not African. They were from somewhere else. As a matter of fact, they were a part of the Lion of Judah. I'm going to break this down a little further for you, because some of you are absorbed with the myth or the illusion of what you call Ethiopia. Yes, there were individuals described as Ethiopians, keyword described as Ethiopians. Where did that term come from? The description of Ethiopians was a term used by the Greeks that differentiated themselves from those black people. Those are Ethiopians. It wasn't we are Ethiopians. That was someone outside of you saying those are Ethiopians. And they were not talking about what you consider a nation called Ethiopians, because nation states were not even in existence at that time in the form of that's Ethiopia. And if it was called Kush. It was called Aksum. It was called a whole bunch of other things, but the Greeks said those are all Ethiopians, and it didn't matter who they were. It's kind of like saying black. So if Brother Jeff is defined as an Ethiopian, then that is true to term based on the Greek definition of what an Ethiopian is. So now let's move away from Ethiopian to Ethiopia. 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 Because Ethiopian just meant those folks who had burnt skin. In other words, black. So if we say Ethiopia, where is that at? And if there's an Ethiopia, why do all of your modern books that have Ethiopia in the title, none of them are older than the 20th century? None of them are older than the 20th century. And so when I say that there's 638 days of genocide, I began to ask the question, how could this be amongst black people or what we call Ethiopians? Well, here's something that every Ethiopian, i.e. from the Ethiopia standpoint, knows. However, the children in the diaspora didn't know, and some in the diaspora chose to forget it, that there was no collective Ethiopian identity. As a matter of fact, that landmass, just like Nigeria, and you know Nigeria was fashioned and formed by the British. And all those folks you calling Nigerians, it was even named by the British. And they bound them all together and made them all one, or attempted to. Well, right now you've got individuals who understand and realize that within what you call Ethiopia, there are over 80 or more ethnic groups and languages. Different forms of viewing the world, different forms of food, different forms of dance, different forms of music. However, if you were going to advance in that system, then you had to participate in what's known as the Latin Nagus, the language of the kings, or the culture of the king. That's how you received advancement. And that's why right now individuals believe that Amharic is an ancient language that denotes Ethiopians. Amharic is not an ancient language. As a matter of fact, there are those, and this is from the Semitic line, because you have those who are Oromo and other ethnic groups that they're not Semitic in their language. There are individuals who call themselves Amharic or Amhara, and it's based on a language. Some would say ethnicity, but I will tell you it's the culture of the king of kings, and relatively recent. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is go back to Giz. Now, there's an ancient language called Giz, and if you want to get involved with the modern fashioning of this story called Ethiopia, you're going to hear this. You're going to hear this line. Giz is a ecumenical language. Giz is the ecumenical language, or the language that's used in the religion. I'm sure some of you all swallowed that as well. But I could tell you, if you know individuals who speak the Tagaru language, Tigrinya, I will guarantee you that to those who speak Tigrinya and those who speak Amharic, they use the same alphabet. And I will tell you that those who speak Tigrinya use more of the Ge'ez alphabet and language than those who speak Amharic. I'll let you connect the dots on that. I'll let you connect the dots on that. It's been 638 days of genocide, and we're just asking the question, where is Abiy Ahmed? And I don't have a definitive answer yet. I'm 30 minutes into this conversation, and I don't have a definitive answer of where is the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. So let me give you a point of reference or protocol. When the mayor of this particular city leaves town, or when the governor leaves town, the deputy mayor is the mayor, the lieutenant governor is the governor. Who's leading and who's running Ethiopia right now while folks can't figure out where Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is? And while you figure that out, I'm looking for someone to find me a book that says the history of Ethiopia or anything about Ethiopia, and I want you to look at when it was published, and I guarantee you it was not published before the 20th century. There was no such thing as a nation called Ethiopia prior to the 20th century. None. So much so that if you go to Harlem, New York, USA, it's not the Church of Ethiopia, it's the Church of Abyssinia. It's not the Church of Ethiopia, it's the Church of Abyssinia. And I'm still waiting for you to give me the understanding of where is Oromia. And the reason it's important to say where is Oromia, because if you understand Oromia, then you'll understand that what you're calling Ethiopia is nothing but an extension of colonial powers, and it's based on colonization. And the gift that Abiy Ahmed gave to the Tigray people is a forged sense of identity to where they are saying, who are we? Tigray. See, they were Tigray before they were Ethiopian, and then they were 100% Ethiopian, and based on a genocide, they went back to being Tigray. And they're Oromo that I know and I grew up with and I've been around that never considered themselves Ethiopian. And those Oromo who consider themselves Ethiopian, they're mainly colonized. They're mainly colonized, and they're in partnership with their own oppression. Stop the genocide in Tigray. I want you to look inside of Ethiopia, and I want you to tell me where there's peace and stability throughout the 10 or 11 regions. And you'll find none. And we still can't find Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Maybe I'll just stop. I can tell you that this genocide is sanctioned because the TDF marched all the way from Tigray and was at the front door of Finfini. And those Western powers and those powers that be, United Arab Emirates, Turkey, etc., they provided drones, weaponry, guidance, support. And that means that the Tigray community, they have defeated the Ethiopian federal troops. They defeated Eritrean troops. They defeated the Amhara militia. They defeated Fano. They defeated and stood up to Turkey, stood up to the United Arab Emirates, and stood up to everybody else who was supporting the genocide of individuals. How come many of you are not asking the deeper question of, if this is about an abuse or a violation of national laws, why are the people based on their ethnicity being targeted for genocide? Who's going to answer that question? Stop the genocide in Tigray. And there has been a question posed to me about peace talks or potential peace talks. And let me tell you my answer. There can be no peace in the midst of a genocide. There can be no peace in the midst of lack of accountability for those who implemented a genocide. There can be no peace amongst those who have targeted women, children, men, and just ordinary citizens for murder, starvation. There can be no peace amongst those individuals. There cannot even be peace until the genocide is stopped. And do you know, once you stop a genocide and you investigate a genocide, that means a genocide has already happened. That means there are millions of individuals who are impacted by the policies of Abiy Ahmed in partnership with Isaias Afwerki. And here is the kicker. We don't know where Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is. There are rumors that he's dead. There's rumors that his back hurts. There's rumors that his back hurts. Even those individuals who used to say, Brother Jeff, you don't know what you're talking about. I noticed that they're not posting in saying, you know what? I just saw Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in Finfinny walking around inspecting the troops. Stop the genocide in Tigray. There will be no peace talks until the genocide is stopped. The investigations have taken place. What you are having is individuals who want to sit down and have a conversation with you so they can regroup, because Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in an early report said he was going to finish the business of Tigray in a week or so. Well, now it's 638 days. Go ahead and share this. I'm just reminding everybody that there's a genocide that is taking place in Tigray. I want to read something to you all from this side of the pond, these United States of America. I want to ask you if you've heard of this, because it's impressive. It's impressive. But I wonder what it means to you. It's impressive. And again, I want to underscore those women who won that Ethiopian world record or world records. They're Tagaru. Tagaru, photocopy them, put them on your wall, hang them up, put them in your office. Everywhere you go, just put them up, put Tagaru up under it. Because what Ethiopia does is they take credit for everybody's stuff, particularly those that they're oppressing. Throughout the diaspora, there are individuals who have graduated with degrees and high honors across all spectrums of education. Do you notice that they didn't walk across that stage anymore with that Ethiopian flag on? They got their own flag. See, now those Ethiopians in the diaspora who have taken political credit, social credit, and high achievement credit for Ethiopians without telling everybody that we really hate those people. Like, yeah, we like that they won the 500. We love that they brought a gold medal home, but we hate them. As a matter of fact, we hate them so much that we'll kill and starve their children, and we'll even burn them to death. See, those folks that are happy and they're dancing and they're fist bumping and elbow bumping and pounding, they didn't tell you that at the same time they're celebrating an Ethiopian victory by Tagaru runners, they're allowing children and women to be raped and starved while they're smiling and dancing. They didn't tell you when they're talking about victories for the Ethiopian community, they're talking about a small group of individuals who dominate the discourse and have the Lisan Nagus, many of which believe they are of an ethnicity that they aren't simply because they speak a particular language. Stop the genocide in Tigray. I'm still looking. I'm still trying to find someone to tell me where Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is, and we can't find him in the daylight with a flashlight. We can't find him. Now, of course, there's always been some haters. There were haters from day one when I was bringing this information forward, and they were saying, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm not telling the truth. And then Abiy Ahmed said, well, I know I said there weren't Eritrean troops inside of Ethiopia, but they actually are. Like, what kind of leader has foreign troops inside of his own nation and doesn't know they're there, but then knows they're there, but invited them to fight the Tigray because no one can defeat them? So I'm going to get some help. I'm going to get some help from who? Eritrea, someone that is wholly invested in hating Ethiopia. They're born and raised, even though they're one people. I mean, I know the gelato got in the way. Like, folks got enamored with gelato and spaghetti and pizza, but at the end of the day, we know what that's all about. You got a leader that's like got boots on the ground, fighting his own citizens and saying that he is upholding the law, and the world powers say, "Hooray, good for you." Well, now from the United States of America, there's a bipartisan resolution condemning starvation as a weapon of war. It passed the Senate. Shout out to Senator Menendez, who has been calling this a genocide from the start. But there's a resolution out, everybody. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, consume it, appreciate it, or whatever. But let me tell you what the resolution is about. Then I'm going to tell you, I've got a couple of things I want to tell you. A couple of things I want to tell you. The senators passed a resolution, and they are standing against food being used as a weapon. Now, we've been telling you that food has been used as a weapon in this genocide from the very beginning. World Health Organizations, Doctors Without Borders. I mean, it's all documented. But when we were saying it, it was like, Keep in mind, this resolution and this press release comes in July 21st. It starts off, the introduction of a resolution not only condemning the use of hunger as a weapon of war, but also recognizing the effect of the conflict on global food security. Now, for those of you who keep up and those of you who read between the lines, I just read you two things right there. This resolution talks about food being used as a weapon of war, and it also talks about global food security. Global food security. Why is that important? Where does most of Europe and parts of Africa and parts of the world get most of their food? Or the core ingredients to make their products? I'm like, let's move away from the starvation for a second, because depending on who's starving, it's okay. Because if we were against using food as a weapon for 638 days, we wouldn't be having this conversation about what's happening in Tigray. Like, if we were concerned about food being used as a weapon in starvation, then we wouldn't be 638 days into a genocide where food is being used as a weapon and starvation is being used as a weapon. And that's not the first time. Remember when we were singing "We Are the World"? Emperor Haile Selassie was starving individuals. The food was there. Food was being used as a weapon. And that is one of the reasons he was buried beneath a toilet. Regardless of what the new institutions tell you, I'm talking about the universities of Addis Ababa, established in about when? 1950. And when it was established, where was the curriculum from and what was it delivered in? French. Why? Ask Haile Selassie's dad. And then go back and think about his family lineage attached to Menelik II. But go even further of that and talk about Haile Selassie. See, these Europeans had a long reach and long tentacles inside of Ethiopia. What do you think all those civilizing missions were about? What do you think all that missionary work was all about? Even though Ethiopia accepted Christianity in the 4th century, the first nation to accept Christianity, you got Christians coming in as missionaries into a Christian land. What they were telling you is, you might be Christian, but you ain't good enough. You might be black. That makes you less than. However, let's continue. I want to go into this global food security aspect of this resolution. Where's the breadbasket for Europe? Large parts of Africa and the world. You guessed it, Ukraine. You guessed it, Ukraine. Look it up. The breadbasket. See, this is that global food security line. We're not just in Ukraine because we're helping the Ukrainians. We're in Ukraine because there's also a global food security issue there. We don't care if they starve in Tigray. However, we're not going to starve based on what's happening in Ukraine via Russia. See, you see how we connect that? That's called the synapses. You see how we just connected that? It's all right if the Tigray are starved to death, but we're not going to be so starved to death in Europe. And where does your food come from? Ukraine. Uh-oh. Stop the genocide in Tigray. Somebody's going to argue with me. They're going to say, no, Ukraine. We're just in Ukraine because Russia encroached upon Ukraine, and they're flexing and saying that it used to be, and we just can't take that because we're so into these conflicts about who gets what and how. The breadbasket is in Ukraine. You want me to tell you why Ethiopia is very important? You want me to tell you why the Horn of Africa is very important? You want me to tell you why the Horn of Africa is very important? Okay, I will. Egypt doesn't have any water except the water that comes from Ethiopia. I'm going to say that again. All of you tourists, and those of you who have visited the pyramids, and those of you who have gone all through, when you got there, was it raining? In Egypt. When you got to Egypt, was it a rainstorm? Like, did you get there and you have to pull out an umbrella? You didn't? You know why? Because if it rained in Egypt, it would probably be a very special day that you'd probably have to mark on the calendar. Egypt gets its water from the Nile, that the origins come out of Ethiopia. And that's why that Renaissance dam threatened global security. That's why the independence of Ethiopians controlling their own water. See, there's this big global conversation about water rights. There's also a myth that says Egypt was never colonized by the British. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? The Egypt that you're even talking about is nothing but a bunch of Europeans. Even when you start talking about Alexandria, Alexander the Great, all of those Ptolemy emperors or pharaohs, those were white folks. See, by the time the white folks showed up, Egypt and the folks that the Greeks were calling Ethiopians, they were long gone. You want me to tell you something else? I'm just kind of breaking a few things down for you, because then we're going to tie it in a bow and then I'm going to move out the way. But I just wanted to come by quickly and tell you it's 638 days of genocide. And we got to stop the genocide in Tigray. And in a future show, we're just going to do a whole Oromia show. One day, I want to just give you a whole history of Oromia. And I want to show you how the colony and the colonizers extended that scramble of Africa throughout all of Africa. And I know it hurts because some of you are under the illusion that Ethiopia has never been colonized. Well, some of you don't believe that the British ruled Egypt for about 75, 80 years straight. 75, 80 years straight. However, they did it under these kind of words: protectorate, advisors. Does the protectorate word ring a bell for some of you who have studied Ethiopian history? Because if it did, that whole witch hell treaty that Menelik signed, now all of you are saying, well, he didn't know what he was signing because he couldn't read it and they switched it around. No, it was a protectorate of Italy. Okay. Where's Abiy Ahmed? We don't know. We don't know. But why is this important? Food security. Do you want me to tell you what is most valuable about the Horn of Africa and what this is all about? There needs to be somebody that can create stability in that particular region. And Abiy Ahmed is not the one to create stability, because the instability in his country is threatening global security in the Horn of Africa. They need someone that can have stability in the region, and genocide is not a way to enhance or encourage stability. So what's at risk? Do you want to go to the end of the 19th century, the early 20th century, and tell you a little bit about what the French were able to do up there in Egypt? And by the way, study Lawrence of Arabia, study, what is her name? Gertrude Bell. Did you know a woman created what you know as the Middle East? Did you know the British created all that? Like, have you ever looked up Lawrence of Arabia and know all of that stuff and like what was taking place, and King Faisal and Abdullah and his sons and all that? You didn't know that was a partnership with the British to fight against the Ottoman Empire? And that's why in your house you got a thing called the Ottoman that you could put your feet up on, because the British were all and the European powers were finally able to put their feet up on the Ottoman Empire, and that's why they got their feet on your, like you got an Ottoman right now. I'm just telling you, this protectorate thing, isn't it interesting that you celebrate Menelik II, and you can already look at his hat and tell you that he was a Western European. It's not. It never interests you that you won the Battle of Adwa, but he gave up the water, the ports by the Red Sea. See, because that's the vital interest, the water. Well, the French put in this thing, this engineering feat called the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal, which goes through the Mediterranean, across the Red Sea, and then off into the Gulf of Aden, and then it goes off into the route to India. So European goods could make their way from Europe to India and cut the time by months without going around the Cape of Good Hope. This is so deep. Let me just tell you something. Do you know that if you have consumer goods in the diaspora or anywhere, probably half or more of the items in your house right now came through that Suez Canal? Do you know that there was a cargo ship in recent years, maybe even last year? There's a huge cargo ship, and the wind and the sand began to blow. If in fact it wasn't a terrorist attack, I don't know, but I know most of the things that people tell you are not true. All I know is that a great big cargo vessel went sideways and got locked in the Suez Canal area. Guess how much it cost? $400 million an hour. See, this is global food security. If you think that Red Sea is not important, and I just told you about a vessel that blocked that canal that cost $400 million an hour. Now you're starting to see the significance of what we're talking about. Why global security and food security is very heavily dependent on what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening by that Red Sea. And guess who's up by the Red Sea and has an Italian name, by the way? The roots of the name go back to Greek also, but the Italians named it Eritrea. Your hero Menelik kept the land locked and gave the Italians the water. Why? Because he was an Italian. He was a European. Stop the genocide in Tigray. Somebody share this because it's more of a history lesson. It's just for me a reminder to let you know that it's 638 days of genocide. And the U.S. passed a resolution condemning starvation and also the effect of conflict on global security. And these comments start off, from Russia's war in Ukraine to Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Yemen, bad actors are deliberately destroying agricultural goods and infrastructures, manipulating markets, blocking access by humanitarians, and ultimately starving innocent civilians to death in a callous attempt to advance political or military objectives. This is Senator Reich, and guess who he's talking about as a bad actor? Didn't use his name, but he's talking about Abiy Ahmed amongst the bad actors. See, I'm going to just fill in the blanks for you. I'm going to fill in the blanks for you. There are exasperating and ongoing disruptions in supply chains. Uh-oh, that's over there next to the Red Sea, Suez Canal, Bab el-Mandeb, Gulf of Aden. The U.S. Senate is speaking in terms of one voice. Cory Booker. Today, the Senate sent a strong bipartisan message to condemn all those who use hunger as a weapon. Cory Booker, he's talking about Abiy Ahmed. So you better read between these political lines. And in the meantime, we still don't know where Abiy Ahmed is. We can't find him. I'm looking through all of these comments and no one knows where Abiy Ahmed is. We can't find him. But the U.S. Senate is calling him a bad actor, using hunger as a weapon. Cory Booker said, with conflicts around the world such as Russia's, listen, this is Cory Booker, Russia's unjustified invasion of Ukraine, violence in the Horn of Africa. See, what you're calling Ethiopia is in the universal theater right now. And I don't know if Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and his best friend and mentor Isaias Afwerki are built to navigate this storm. So much so that the world, much of the world, is standing against Russia, while Isaias Afwerki and Abiy Ahmed are standing with Russia. Why is that important? I'll say it again. If Russia is not successful, then you are going to see the same dynamic in Ethiopia as you see or as you saw when Mussolini, who with the permission of and in partnership with France and Britain, attacked Ethiopia while Haile Selassie fled to Britain, the very individuals who gave the green light for Italy and Mussolini to go in and take over Ethiopia. The only reason they got him out of there is because Mussolini joined Hitler. Abiy Ahmed's getting out of there because he's joined Putin. Isaias Afwerki and Abiy Ahmed are aligned with Putin. And they better hope that Putin is successful against all of those European and Western and American superpowers. And trust me, Putin won't be. And the result of Mussolini joining Hitler is why you have a state of Somali inside of Ethiopia. Did you know inside of Ethiopia there's a state of Somali? That was the Italian portion of Somalia. Now some will call it the Ogaden. But just to give you some context, that's when the powers that be came together and they took Italy's cookies. They took their stuff and they gave it back, and they controlled it back amongst themselves, and they put Italy in timeout. Stop the genocide in Tigray. Hope some of this has been helpful, but I just wanted to come forward to you and let you know that we are continually watching this. We will watch it. We're keeping our eyes on Tigray. Don't stop. Don't give up. Don't back up, because you can't hide a genocide. Hey, you want to hear something? This might I don't know. Let me see if I have it. I've got so much stuff that I can cover. Did you know as early as 2020, 2021, Isaias Afwerki was in partnership with Russia to establish a naval base in Eritrea's ports? Did you know that? Like, who are the players in the Red Sea? Well, France, Britain, America, Japan, Russia, China. You know, they're all based and ported up. You know, Eritrea and Russia have a relationship, and they have an agreement, and this is Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's mentor. That's his Eritrean mentor. You didn't know that there is a negotiation. There were negotiations that Russia is going to put a naval base in Eritrean ports. You didn't know that? See, while you're looking over there, while Abiy Ahmed is central to the collapse of Ethiopia, guess what else is happening? Guess who said they're about to walk up into Ethiopia? Maybe I'll leave on this. I need someone to give me the update on what's happening with the OLA also. I need someone to I need some updates. I need some updates. But I'm going to get out of here. The world and the local actors watched the TDF. Listen to this very closely. They watched the TDF make its way from Tigray all the way to the doors of Finfini. And they did it while being starved, systemic rape, lack of communication, lack of access to medical care. And in the harshest conditions, they still beat the federal government, the Eritrean troops, the Amhara militia, the group called Fano, and then all of the actors that came to the support of Abiy Ahmed and gave him loans and gave him drones. And, you know, all of your economy is being tanked because the money is being used to arm up Abiy Ahmed against his own people. And then you had the Oromo troops that were coming to meet, like you see the OLA and others, they were coming to meet, and the world was watching this. Guess who watched this, and guess who's walking through the back door while you have a civil war taking place inside of Ethiopia? El Shabaab. Familiar with El Shabaab? See, that's a whole nother story. I'm pretty sure they said, if they can walk through, so can we. So now, while Abiy Ahmed was so busy trying to cling on to power in a violent way, when he came to power through the power of democracy, he brings back the power of the gun, takes Ethiopia back into the 19th, 18th, 17th century. And while everyone is fighting against one another, foreign nations are walking in the door. And the very individuals that Abiy Ahmed, through the Western powers and the African we ain't doing nothing about genocide union. You know what the African we ain't doing nothing about genocide in Tigray union? Do you know what they're getting paid to do? They're getting paid to stop El Shabaab. Now El Shabaab can't be stopped because Abiy Ahmed is fighting his own. And the African Union, which is inside of Finfini, these are individual countries that said that they came forward from colonization. And where did they set up their headquarters? Inside of a colony called Oromia. Inside of Finfini, you got an African Union with African leaders saying that they fought against and they beat back colonialism, but they set up their headquarters inside of a colony called Oromia. And guess who built the African Union's headquarters? The Chinese. And the Chinese put bugs in the walls and the furniture. They were sending the data from the computers right back to Beijing. I'm gonna bring my friend and brother Arasa back on the show. The next time I talk about Oromia, I'm going to have my brother and friend Dr. Arasa Sege. See, I'm going to work my Sege Arasa. I don't know what Ethiopia is going to do, but I don't think genocide does anything to bring about a collective identity. And there's always been this push between the central and the peripheral. Well, now it's all unraveling. So with that being said, I just wanted to stop by and say hello to all of our amazing individuals who are using their humanitarian to say stop the genocide in Tigray, those who are standing with Oromia, those who are standing with oppression wherever it may be found, those who have weathered the storm of lies and misinformation where they were saying that this isn't taking place, those who are keeping their eye on Tigray. Don't give up. Don't back up. Your voices are being heard. Your work is being realized. And Tigray Tisa'er. I want to say thank you to everybody. Mickey Tigray, Danny Dallas. I mean, the whole crew in Delay. whether I know you or haven't seen you, or if you're fighting on behalf of individuals who are oppressed by anyone, salute to you. But if you're dancing because individuals have been burned to death and have been displaced and have been systemically raped, I question your humanity. So the humanitarians, the good people from all over the world, our hearts are with those who are oppressed, and it's been 638 days of genocide in Tigray. I'll be back with more information. I got tons of information, but I didn't get my answer. I don't know where Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is. I don't know. Somebody inbox me, somebody text me. But again, Ethiopia and Ethiopians are two different things. Ethiopians was a term used by the Greek to define black folks, those folks with the burnt skin. Ethiopia is a 20th century extension of the scramble for Africa. And you're seeing the colony unfold. And the greatest gift that Abiy Ahmed has given to the Tigray community is a sense of collective identity. That collective identity is what builds nations. That collective identity throughout the diaspora is what builds nations. What you have in what this modern Ethiopia is not a collective identity, and the brutality will not force anyone to submit into a collective identity. It works in China because they have a policy of one China, but them is Chinese. State of Tigray, the Tigray have left the building. State of Oromia, they've never been in the building. The state of the Gambella people, you're telling me that they're Ethiopians? See, they're all Ethiopians when you need them. And now that you need them to come together to help you from foreign interests that are coming in, taking advantage of your disunity, now they don't want to be with you. Now you're right back to the King of Kings. The King of Kings. That wasn't a nation. That was a feudal state based on kingship. And most of those kingdoms have crumbled. And so the King of Kings, didn't you call Haile Selassie the King of Kings? You didn't call him the King of Ethiopia. The King of Kings is a relationship whereby at the end of every rainy season, the king had to go and put in check those who were not paying homage to, taxes to, land to, etc. And the it's like King of the Hill, the King of the Kings, through power and might, not through democracy, not through negotiation, but through warfare. But through warfare. That's what created the Kings of Kings. And Abiy Ahmed believes he's a King of Kings, but he's learned quite handily that you're not going to defeat the Tigray. You couldn't do it alone with the federal troops, so you invited the Eritrean troops. Couldn't do it with the Eritrean troops and the federal troops, so you allowed the Amhara militia to join in. Couldn't do it with the Amhara militia, couldn't do it with the federal troops, couldn't do it with the Eritrean troops, so you allowed Fano to come up, and anybody who could pick up a stick or a brick, everybody join in, and they still marched to Finfinny. And that's when you had to go get some drones, you had to go get some United Arab Emirates, you had to get all of those different things. And by the way, guess what else I want to leave you with in terms of vital interests? If Ukraine is the breadbasket for Europe, Africa, and other places in terms of vital ingredients to keep a global market going, and if Egypt doesn't have any water, guess who doesn't have any oil? Guess who doesn't have any oil? Exactly. Britain. Britain has no oil. So, the heartbeat of this global economy is right there at the Horn of Africa. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has not been able to create stability, and I guarantee you the powers that be are looking for someone that can bring a semblance of stability. Okay, I get it. I got the answer. They say he's hiding. Abiy Ahmed is hiding. See, and this is the problem. Well, they said he's in the hospital in Saudi Arabia. Don't you who's running Ethiopia then? Okay, let's assume, and I'm leaving after this. Let's assume Abiy Ahmed is in Saudi Arabia. Who's in charge of Ethiopia right now then? Your prime minister is in Saudi Arabia because clearly he doesn't have the medical capabilities to take care of himself in his own country. So what does he do? He goes to seek medical attention somewhere where the country he leads is so more concerned with genocide than creating an institution that would be able to even take care of him. He has to fly out and go get medical attention in Saudi Arabia. That's horrible. You think you should be creating more doctors than those who would be celebrating individuals being burned to death? You think that you would have to go to Saudi Arabia to get medical attention? Why? Because you put all of your time into a genocide where the folks that you're killing could probably be treating your back. See, this is the problem with leadership in this country that are under protectorates. And then they're celebrating the fastest runners in the world, but don't want to tell you that they're Tigray. Why? Because they're killing the Tigray, starving them. But the Tigray are not laid down. They have not backed down. They're fighting. So, with that being said, Tigray to Sa'ur, 638 days. I'll be back soon. I'll be back with Dr. Arasa. I'll get him. I'll make a time for us to just talk, and I'll just listen, because we got to do an entire segment on the Oromo. We got to do an entire segment on the Oromo. But again, from day one, we're keeping our eyes on Tigray. I don't get the arguments anymore because all of the arguments have been washed away. They used to try and get me. They used to, in the early days, they used to say, "Brother Jeff, you know, there was a massacre in my cadre." I said, well, if there was a massacre of others in my cadre, then why are the Tigray filling up the refugee camps in Sudan? If they are massacring individuals, don't you think the other individuals will be filling up the refugee camps? Oh, this is a good answer. The one who is running Ethiopia right now is the one who is the mentor. Isaias Afwerki's running Ethiopia. Like the prime minister invited him in, opened up the door, let him create genocide, let them march all the way down. You got the Eritrean troops still in Western Tigray. You still got them down there with the Oromo. So Prime Minister Isaias Afwerki is probably running Ethiopia. Did you think he was going to leave? Like, man, he's like, man, you open up this door, I'm walking right in. Would you please help me against the Tigray? Sure, I will. Come on. Sure, I will. And he knows he was with the EPRDF fighting with the TPLF. He knows he don't want nothing to do with fighting them TPLF. He don't want to fight by the way, the TPLF is a form of government. It's like a party. He don't want to fight that TDF. Here's my recommendation right now as well for those of you who are talking about the TPLF. That's one political party amongst many in a democratized environment. So that tells you that the people have choices in terms of their leadership. But what happens in genocides and strife is this: opposition will sometimes partner with the oppressors of their own group to gain favor. I want the Tigray to not fall for that trap. Don't fall into dividing yourself where parts that were not successful in being elected or have a different worldview as it relates to leadership, etc. Unite on the fact that you're Tigray and work from that place, as opposed to letting those come in and divide you and saying, as long as you help us defeat your own people, we'll give you a piece of the pie. There's no piece of the pie to share because the International Criminal Court is waiting on Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki. Stop the genocide in Tigray. Look, you even have individuals, and I'm telling you, they never considered themselves Ethiopian. They have always been Oromia. They're like, who am I? Oromo. Like, I run it. How you doing? You Ethiopian? I'm Oromo. And now you walk up to individuals, you say, are you Ethiopian? I'm Tigray. And now Abiy Ahmed is hiding, and Isaias Afwerki is probably running the country that your prime minister opened up the door and allowed him to walk in. You thought he was coming for them, but he's coming for you, because them, i.e. the Tigray, will beat the brakes off of them. They're not having it. Tigray Tissa stop the genocide in Tigray, 638 days. Good to reconnect with each and every one of you, and we will be back soon and give you more information. Your homework assignment again is this: look at any book that says Ethiopia in the title. Look at any book that says Ethiopia in the title, and if it was produced before the 20th century, I'll give you a dime to $1,000. Even the scholastic material was produced by those who have been upholding the illusions and the myths. So with that being said, Salamawit. It's just good to see you and others. Tigray Tissa. When I come back again, we'll have a deeper conversation, because I want to just hear from each and every one of you. And we will do that once again. Let me make sure that this is off. Again, don't give up, don't give in, don't give out. We're going to keep our eye on Tigray. You're seeing the unraveling of Ethiopia. And when you can't tell me where your prime minister is located, and I've been talking for about 2 hours, an hour and a half. See, the Ogaden, the Tigray, the state of Somalia, Oromia, like, this is what's happening, and it's all coming apart. And we don't know where the prime minister is. He might be in Saudi Arabia getting back surgery and recouping, because he's put all of his resources in genocide. And that growing economy that was the fastest or the largest in Ethiopia or the largest in Africa and gaining steam, now the credit rating amongst the international lenders has determined that Ethiopia's credit rating is at junk bond status. What a way to give away a legacy and partner with Isaias Afwerki, who historically hates you. He might not hate you, he hates your people, because he don't consider your people his people. He's more with the gelato, the spaghetti, and the pizza. And he's partnering with Russia to put a naval base in the Red Sea. So now you will have Russia, China, Japan, France, Italy, Britain, etc. While Menelik II gave them all the access after a victory that took place where? In Tigray. Stop the genocide in Tigray. 638 days. You can't hide genocide, and nor should we. Someone will be held responsible. Tigray Tisser.
Allow humanitarian access!
Allow humanitarian access!
Abiy Ahmed to the ICC!
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 Reconnect Tigray!
Reconnect Tigray!
Reconnect Tigray!
Reconnect Tigray!
Reconnect Tigray!
Reconnect Tigray!
Over 20,000 young girls and women have been raped by Eritrean and Ethiopian military men because of the ongoing genocide. Out of the 6 million population of the Tigray region, 5.2 of them are facing a man-made famine. This is all because the dictator in Ethiopia wants to stay in power illegally and unconstitutionally. We, as a global citizens, have the power to come together and stop the suffering of the innocent people. We're here calling on the U.S. government to impose targeted economic sanctions on Ethiopia and Eritrea, to impose arms embargo so that these genocidal forces do not continue to buy armaments and kill innocent people. You can join our social media movement by using the hashtag Tigray Genocide on Twitter. You can also join our grassroots movement and lobbying efforts by talking to your senators and Congress people and pushing them to impose sanctions on Ethiopia and Eritrea. Sanction Ethiopia!
Sanction Ethiopia!
Sanction Ethiopia!
Sanction Ethiopia!
Sanction Ethiopia!
Sanction Ethiopia!
Isaias to the ICC!
Isaias to the ICC!
Isaias to the ICC!
Isaias to the ICC!
Drop food, not bombs!
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 If I can't hear you, they can't hear you. Who are we? Who are we? Who are we? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want it? What do we want it? What do we want it? Who are we? Who are we? Who are we? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want it? 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 Stop the Tigray genocide! 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 This is a peaceful protest against the ongoing state-sponsored genocide in Tigray, Ethiopia. For the past 9 months, the government of Ethiopia colluded with the government of Eritrea to bomb, rape, murder, massacre, and annihilate the Tigray people. Of the 6 million innocent civilians in Tigray, over 90% of the population is in need of emergency humanitarian aid. There's no food, no water, no gas, no electricity. The people are being annihilated in complete darkness. We've been fighting for 9 months on the street, but we can't do it alone. We need our allies and our outside communities to speak up on our behalf. We united together in the 80s when our people were starving, and we need to do it together again. The people have no food, no water, no aid. They've completely blocked access to the region, and the government of Ethiopia and Eritrea have weaponized hunger and rape as a means to further their own political agenda. We need to unite together and use our voice to bring an end to this. We've done it for the last 9 months, and we can't let up.